Tonight I'm going to work on, I need to put a girt in my workshop. As far as on the end of it, I need to go through and brace it up a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and put a girt in it, make sure it's going to stand up straight and square. And to do that, I need my girt. So this is a rough cut 4x4. I'm going to go through, and it's obviously cut longer than I need, but I'm going to go ahead and get me a nice clean edge on it. So this is my, when doing this, this is my shortest side of my rough cut. I'm going to come back about an inch. Get that. So I got my mark there. Luckily, since it's a 4x4 here, I don't need the hand saw on this one. My circular saw will cut all the way through it. Just 2 cuts. So got the old trusty Makita out. That's at full depth. Hearing protection. I normally jam out while listening down here, but today I'm not, since filming a little bit. But I'm going to use them for protection. Put on your safety squints. Let's get this going. And a final cut. Alrighty, safety squints off. It actually came out a lot smoother than I was expecting. So for my girt, I'm going to go through and do what's called a half lap. Okay. So I thought I would go into a little bit more detail on the different types of joinery you'll see with girts. Here is from Jack Savon's book, picture from it at least. So up at the top you've got a mortise and tenon without a shoulder. So basically you would create your mortise and tenon, and then what you would do is drill and peg that from the back side and shave the peg flush so that you can get whatever sheathing it is that you're going to put on the house. Housed butt joint. This one's pretty straightforward, and I believe I mentioned it previously. So you just basically cut the post, get it the length that you need as far as the housing depth that you want, and that's it. Just simply carve out your housing, or chisel that out. I chose a half lap, or half lapped in this case as it's referred to. And as you see, it's very similar to the mortise and tenon up at the top. It's just simply you're flipping it around to where it's on the outside. Now, there's also down at the bottom a bevel lap as well. Each one of these joints have different benefits based upon if you're expecting, as far as compression, if you're expecting tension on them, as well as the grain of the wood, for example, is a big part of this. So there are drawbacks and advantages. Another one that's not listed here is a half dovetail. That one, I'll admit, I'm not a fan of. That tends to shrink, as your wood dries out, and causes a lot of play in there. But what I'm going to end up having to do, due to codes in my area, I'm going to do a half lap and then run I'm going to run a 6-inch lag into it, or a structural screw. So that's just some basics there. So a little bit about girts and the joinery for them. Thanks. 2 inches. Alrighty. Come over. Mark that. And again, make sure you try to stick to the same side when you're doing these, your same reference face. Again, rough cut on this one. It's not going to be that bad, but just try to keep that as much as you can. Normally I plane mine. I didn't do this one. I'm leaving it just a straight rough cut. It's the 4x4. I don't want to trim it down too much. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to cut down 2 inches. That's going to get me about halfway into it. And then I'm going to go on and do a drop cut and cut the other 2 inches off the other end. So what I'm going to do is about right here, I'll drop my pencil, put in a 2-inch mark. All right. That gives me a good reference point from a drop cut. All right, so let's go ahead and get this. All righty. I need to set my depth of cut to about 2 inches. Just going to try to spot check it a little bit here. I'm eyeballing it. I know it's not going to be exact. That looks pretty good. Alrighty. Safety squints and hearing protection. Let me get my hearing protection on. I tell y'all to do it, and I should do it. Okay, roll it over. Oh, that was on this side. That's my reference face. Let me just double check and see how centered that is. And it's off a little bit, but not too bad. All right, time for my drop cut. You want to cut down, not up, anytime you're doing these. It gives you less chance of a bind. Always fun doing these, especially at an angle. Alrighty. So there we go. And that's it. Oops, I don't want to roll you off. So I'm going to come in and clean that up a little bit, but that's got me a nice half lap. So with this one, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the, as far as the half lap or half housing. So I'm going to set this to 48 inches. That's going to be my bottom, because what I'm looking for, I want to be able to put later on an entire sheet of foam insulation up underneath, and I don't want to have to cut this thing. So that's why I'm doing it. A lot of people will center it up at 4 feet. I'm doing it because I want to be able to slide a full sheet of insulation 4x8 up underneath it and slide it in without having to cut this thing. So for those of you, wondering why I'm not doing it 48 on center, that's why. Now let me mark this a little bit better because I can barely see that mark. It is getting dark, and I've been working on this way too long, and my stuff is sun dried, so, or UV dyed, excuse me, where it's bleached out the color of the wood. I'm going to come in and stain this weekend. I should have done that to start with, but it's definitely one of those. I thought I'd have a lot more time and a lot fewer household projects. That's the way life goes. All right, let me go get my other side, and I'll come back and start cutting it. So I'm right here. All right. Oh, come on. Well, this thing is hell on pencils. Oh, said a bad word. Trying to keep this family friendly. Apologies, everybody. I am trying to keep this family friendly. I do have my moments. I decided to switch over to this. My camera, the battery died on it towards the end of this, so unfortunately it didn't film the installation of the Girt, which that's fine. Now, going through it, what you're seeing me do at first is I'm going through and using my drill bit here and just my auger bit and just boring out a lot of the heavy material, just trying to get everything out of the way as fast as I can. Saves me a lot of chiseling time later. You got to be careful with this. I'm kind of eyeballing the depth here because it's not as critical. Anything I overbore slightly is going to be hidden. So it's not as critical. It's not something most people will see, but I'm generally pretty good at it. I think I had a dimple from the pilot portion of the bit that went a bit too far on two of them. And switch over. I go get my chisels. And I'm just using my, as far as 1.5 inch chisel here, just going through and I do my initial marks because I'm trying to limit my tear out there. I want to make sure that I don't get any. Apologies, I realize it's getting very dark. It's just one of those that when you get a day job, you got to work into the night. And once I get all of my outlines done so that I can prevent my tear out, and then I can really get in there and start hogging out that material with it. So that's a very effective piece going through and using that. So keeps your tear out to a limit. And make sure everything works the way you need it to. Again, just kind of continuing on, really just bearing in there. You can really just drive into this piece again, since you're going through and working with something that if you get a little, if you crush some grain there on the inside, it's not going to be something that's seen. Also, make sure your chisels are sharp. And this leads into another thing. If you're cutting this green, you'll get really nice tight fitting joints. Everything will shave very well. If you're going through and doing this on dry wood, then you're not going to get nearly as much of a clean cut. So just be aware of that. I'm about to go through and get everything cut out on this one. I end up doing the other one and getting the Girt installed tonight. It's just one of those that camera decided to die. So appreciate everybody. Thank you for watching, and I'll post up a pic of the finished Girt and some of the other work later. Thank you. Bye.